Varadhari Shodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Shodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Gopi Janna Vallabha Jayo Giri Varadhari Jayo Giri Varadhari Shodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Shodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Shodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Munathira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Radha Madhava ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Krishna, this morning we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, Shloka 6. Is it 6 on the board? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Etāvān sāṅkhya-yogābhyāṁ sva-dharma-pariniṣṭhayā janma-lābhaḥ puṁsām ante nārāyaṇa-smṛtiḥ. Etāvān sāṅkhya-yogābhyāṁ sva-dharma-pariniṣṭhayā janma-lābhaḥ puṁsām ante nārāyaṇa-smṛtiḥ. Please chant. Pariniṣṭhayā. Ladies, etāvān, all these, sāṅkhya, complete knowledge of matter and spirit, yogābhyām, knowledge of mystic power, sva-dharma, particular occupational duty, pariniṣṭhayā, by full perception, janma, birth, labha, gain, paraḥ, the supreme, puṁsām, of a person, ante, at the end, nārāyaṇa, the personality of Godhead, smrti, remembrance. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The highest perfection of human life, achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty, is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life. Purport. Nārāyaṇa is the transcendental personality of Godhead beyond the material creation. Everything that is created, sustained, and at the end annihilated is within the compass of the mahat-tattva, material principle, and is known as the material world. The existence of Narayana, or the personality of Godhead, is not within the jurisdiction of this mahat-tattva, and as such, the name, form, attributes, etc. of Narayan are beyond the jurisdiction of the material world. By the speculation of empiric philosophy, which discerns matter from spirit, and by cultivation of mystic powers, which ultimately helps the performer to reach any planet of the universe or beyond the universe, or by discharge of religious duties, one can achieve the highest perfection, provided one is able to reach the stage of nārāyaṇa-smṛti, or constant remembrance of the personality of Godhead. This is possible only by the association of pure devotee, who can give a finishing touch to the transcendental activities of all jñānīs, yogīs, or karmīs, in terms of prescribed duties defined in the scriptures. There are many historical instances of the achievement of spiritual perfection, such as that of the Sanakādi Ṛṣis, or the 9 celebrated yogendras, who attained perfection only after being situated in the devotional service of the Lord. None of the devotees of the Lord ever deviated from the path of devotional service by taking to other methods as adopted by the jñānīs or yogīs. Everyone is anxious to achieve the highest perfection of his particular activity, and is indicated herein that such perfection is nārāyaṇa-smṛti, for which everyone must endeavor his best. In other words, life should be molded in such a manner that one is able to progressively remember the personality of Godhead in every step of life. Om Jnānatimirandasya Gnānjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Svaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyatya Deshatarine. He Krishna Karana Sindho Dhina Bandho Jagatpate Gubesha Gopiga Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurat Vishya Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Vanjakalpatarubhasya kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So this is the famous verse quoted by Srila Prabhupada and other acharyas in many places, hundreds of the places. So we are going to say something about the remembrance of the Lord at the time of death. But before we go into that matter, I'd like to ask you one question. Can you remember what was the latest worry that preoccupied your mind recently? Something that really bothered you. Something that you had to think really about. I can give you some proposals what it could be. Maybe it was a shopping worry. You wondered whether to buy iPhone 13 or iPhone 14. Or if you had a nice apartment in Mayapur, maybe whether to buy blue curtains or green curtains for your house. Of course, this look very trifling and insignificant. So there must be some more significant worries that are more justified. Last 2 years, whole world worried about something. You remember? What was that? The virus, COVID-19. Everybody was thinking about the COVID, the mask, vaccines. Now there is another mainstream worry. It's called climate change. Planet is heating up. and we are supposed really to worry about that. And then this winter in Europe, they are worrying about whether they'll have heating or they'll freeze, because the gas is not anymore there. Somewhere else, they might worry whether they'll have enough to eat, maybe in some countries in Africa. Or elsewhere, they're worrying whether somebody will press a nuclear button. Maybe there will be nuclear war. These are all authentic reasons to worry. But if we worry all the time, it can turn into some sort of disease, even a compulsory behavior. I have one friend, he's a very nice devotee, but he has one problem, that at night he has to multiple times go around the house and check whether all the doors are closed, to check if the taps, water taps, are not leaking, and also whether the gas is not leaking. And his wife she's getting nuts, what are you doing? But he cannot help, he's just forced. Although he knows it's foolish, but he has to do these things. It's just compulsive worry. Yeah. So are our worries beneficial? How many of us worry about remembering Krishna at the moment of death, even as devotees? Anybody had this worry? I don't think so many of us worry about this thing at this present moment. Maybe if we have 2 days before that, then we might worry. Do we worry about our life getting shorter with every setting and rising of the sun? Not much, unless we are really old and have some terminal disease. So I'd like to tell a story which will illustrate what should we worry about and what we should not worry about. It's a nice story, which is an elaboration of one Sanskrit shloka. So there was once one prince who with his associates went for hunting. So they were riding their horses and going around the forest. And then they saw a group of ladies carrying milk pots on their heads. Like in India, it used to be common sight in a rural area, in village areas, ladies carrying either water or milk or buttermilk, some curd on the heads in the clay pots. So when this prince saw this, he thought, oh, let us have some fun. I would like to see how these ladies are going to react if we smash their milk pots. Later we'll pay them for all destroyed and spilled milk, but let's see their reaction. So they start shooting arrows and breaking these milk pots. And all ladies, they start screaming, they were in panic, they reacted, very emotionally. Except for one lady. That lady, she didn't care very much. She looked quite sober and didn't look very disturbed. And the prince, he was very intrigued. Oh, how come everybody else is crying and this lady, she's just standing there very peacefully like a yogi? I have to go and inquire from her. So he went to her and asked her, how come you're not crying? Everybody else is crying. Why you're not disturbed? And the lady told him, it's a long story. Do you have a little time? I can tell you. Yes, I'm really intrigued. Please tell me. Please listen, she told him. Once, many years ago, I was a young and beautiful lady. I had my husband. I had a young son, 7 years old. And we were happily living in a city. So once it happened that the king of that city, he became attracted to me, and he sent me a letter asking me to meet him for his enjoyment. I was terrified. So I immediately wrote a letter to my husband, who was in a neighboring city selling some goods. He was a merchant. So as soon as he got my letter, my husband came back and we made a plan. So I wrote back to the king and told him, yes, I will meet you, but under one condition. You come alone at the place which I say. So she told him, and king agreed. So she told me to come at night time at a lonely place. And then she went there together with her husband. And she carried a big knife with her. And husband was hiding behind in the bushes. So when she met the king and king attempted to do something, she killed him. She just had to defend herself and her chastity. And then she went back to see her husband, and to her surprise and utter horror, she saw that husband was also dead. The snake was there in these bushes. Snake bit him, and he died from a snake bite. So she was very, very disturbed. She didn't know what to do. She couldn't go back home. So she took her son and they left for another city. Then on the way, some robbers, they attacked her. It's a long story. They attacked her. They took her child who was given to adoption. They took all her ornaments. So she suffered a lot. So she was left alone without anybody in this world. She wandered here and there. Eventually she came to some city and there was some prostitute house there. So these prostitutes, they hosted her, and eventually she also had to do their own job. So she lived like this very horrible life. And after many years, that adopted son, he grew up and he happened to come by to that also prostitute house. And of course she didn't know it was him, but somehow she had to sleep with him. And then when she realized that it was her son, she got so disgusted with herself that she went to Brahmanas and asked them, what should I do to atone for all my sins? And the Brahmanas told him, only atonement for you is to make a pile of wood, lie on the pile of wood, lit it to fire, and burn yourself. So she did exactly that. She made a big pile of wood on the bank of the river. She lit the fire. By that time, the river overflooded and destroyed that pile of wood. So she fell in the water. She tried to drown, but somehow she didn't drown, and she was eventually cast out on the other bank. And then she wandered again around and eventually came to some village where some milkmen, some goshas were living. And they accepted her in their service, and since then she was living there. Can somebody please fix this sound? So they engaged her, and since then she was working with this milkman, carrying the milk and doing other services. And now she asked the prince, so do you think after all this that happened to me, do you think that I can worry about some broken clay pots? And then Prince realized why she was not actually disturbed. After all these things that happen in life, to worry about something so insignificant as the broken pots is ridiculous. But we all tend to worry about broken pots and spilled milk, and we forget the real problems of life. We forget that we are supposed to die one day, and that the final exam is waiting for us. Hare Krishna. So who cares whether I have iPhone 14 or 13 or some old Samsung phone? Who cares if he didn't greet me in the morning, or he looked at me in a wrong way, or he said that she said something unpleasant about me? All these things are called by one word. There is one word called tucca. This is a very nice Sanskrit word. Means banal, insignificant, trifling. It also means chaff. When you thresh the rice, what is left when you take out the grain is that chaff, that husk, which is completely worthless, empty. So when we lose our perspective, when we lose the big picture, then we tend to worry about insignificant things. And this is all the result of living in some imaginary world of our mind. Nowadays they have something called virtual headset. You know, you put this headset and you live in some sort of virtual world where you imagine doing certain things. But in one sense, to smaller or bigger degree, we all live in this virtual world of our minds, where we make small things very big, and also opposite, we forget about the big things. So worry is one sign that we are not really living in reality, that we live in the virtual world of our mind. And mind that is not in sattva guna, that is predominated by rajas and tamas, is never happy in the present moment, always laments with the past and hankers for something in the future. So we go to astrologers and ask him, oh, what can I expect in the next Mahadasha? And then he tells us, oh, when your Jupiter comes, or when your Venus Mahadasha comes, or this Antardasha or that Antardasha, you may expect this and that. And then we live in a hope, finally, one day something will come and I'll be happy. But when that comes, again, we are not happy, because we are in the same state of mind, which is predominated by Raja and Tamaguna, and by default, it cannot be happy. So in this way, half of our life can pass, and sometimes many, many, many years, until we wake up, if we wake up, and realize that real happiness comes only from the spiritual platform, comes only from devotional service. So only from the Brahma Bhuta platform, actually, when one has realized that he is not his body and not his mind, he can actually be happy. And according to Bhagavad Gita, engage in devotional service in a real sense. Brahma Bhuta prasanatmana shochari nakamshati samasaveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. When he reaches Brahma Bhuta, above this hankering and lamentation, he actually starts devotional service in true sense. In Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 10th canto, in the description of the rain season, we have one very nice verse describing what happens after the rain season. Shukadeva Goswami describes, the fish swimming in the increasingly shallow water did not at all understand the water was diminishing, just as foolish family men cannot see how the time they have left to live is diminishing with every passing day. So now here in Mayapur is the end of the rain season. So in the fields you see some small pools, ponds of water, and sometimes some fish is caught there. But that fish is ignorant, it's foolish. It doesn't see that the water is going down, and after some days it will end up on dry land and die. So similarly, those who are foolish materialists, family men or not family men, they don't think that very soon, one day, the death will come. And then what we are going to do? Of course, if we are devotees, we are assured that we will not go to hell. But we may not remember Narayan at the end of life. And then there is no guarantee that in next life we will be devotee. Of course, we'll continue devotional service, but again, when you think about it, you have to be in the womb for 9 months. Then you have to go through all the pains of growing up, being a baby and crying and feeling, disturbance and pain, and nobody understands you. Then you have to go to school. Just going to school is one thing. I would not like to be born again. And then when you come to teenage age, all you're interested in is other boys and girls. The other day I was with one friend at the Jalangi Bank, and there were some young teenage boys and girls there. And my friend who is coming from Europe, he told me, but they speak same as the boys and girls, karmi boys and girls in Europe speak. What she told me and he told me, and he looked like me, at me like this and like that. All this ordinary boys and girls stuff. So do we really want to go again through all this? So how to wake up from these dreams, insignificant worries and daydreaming of our mind that doesn't do any good to us and that stops us of making progress? There's one book called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. 1948, Dale Carnegie, famous Dale Carnegie, he wrote, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. So we want all to stop worrying and start living a real life in devotional service. There is one funny story. A man saw in the newspapers an ad. Somebody was hiring somebody, giving good pay. So he went there and asked him, what is this job about? He went to the employer. What is the job about? Oh, I worry too much, so I need somebody to worry for me. And the pay is $1,000 a month, something like that. Oh, very good. I can do that for you. You're hired. Okay, so when will be my first paycheck? Well, that will be the first cause of your worry. I don't have any money. So we cannot really hire somebody to worry for us. We have to learn how to stop worrying about insignificant things and start worrying about the real things in life. If you remember your times in school, at the end of year, usually there were final exams. And as I remember, there were some groups of students who studied regularly throughout the year. And at the end, the final exam would come, they were ready, they didn't need really to stress and overexert too much. But there was a second group of students, and I think I was in that second group of students, who would start studying maybe a month or a few weeks before that final exam in a great panic, studying day and night just to pass the exam. And the rest of the year, we were just, relaxing and playing around. So we have to understand that the final exam is coming at the end of life. So are we going to wait for 1 month before that, or whatever little time is left that we are warned? Or we are going to start preparing now? I think it's much wiser to have a bigger picture and start preparing well in advance. So we have to become aware of our precarious position in this world, to realize who we are and why we are here, and stop daydreaming. If we just daydream and worry about the small things, we will not move anywhere. Nothing will really change. We'll just move in circles and circles. So liberated souls, like previous acharyas, they all want us to wake up. So that's why we should listen to their words, trying to wake us up. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he writes in his Gitavali, he says, Udita tapana hoile asta, dina gelo boli hoibe byasta, tabe keno ebe alasa hoi, nabaja hridoya raje. Each time the sun rises and sets, and day passes and is lost, then why do you remain idle and refuse to serve the Lord of the heart? Jivana anitya jhana sar, tahe nana vida vipada bhar, namashreya kori jattane tumi takaha apanakaje. So now he tells us what should we do. Understand this essential fact. Life is temporary and full of all kinds of miseries. So take shelter of the holy name as your only business. So this is our only business in this life, to take shelter of the holy name. Everything else is there just to support that. But somehow we tend to make other businesses priority, and this business something which is not so important. Then he says, Jivara kalyana sadhana kam jagate asi emadhuranam avidya timira tappana rupe hrid gagane viraje. Desiring to bless all souls, the sweet name of Krishna has descended to the material world and now shines like the sun in the sky of the heart, destroying the darkness of ignorance. And then he finishes, Krishna nama suda korya pan jura bhakati vinoda pran nama bina kichu nahiko aro choda bhuvana maje. Drink the pure nectar of the holy name of Krishna, and that satisfies the soul of Thakur Bhakti Vinod. There is nothing but the holy name within all the 14 worlds. So we are looking for the solution for our problem, for cure for our diseases. So there is one master cure, one supreme solution, that's called Harinam, the holy name of Krishna. Sarva roga panashanam, sarva padrava nashanam, shantidam sarva nishtanam, harir namanu kirtanam. So Brihad Vishnu Purana says, when one performs Sri Harinam Kirtan, all kinds of diseases go away. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he used to tell his disciples when they complained to him or they are sick, instead of sending them to doctor, he told them, you chant better, then all your bodily problems will go away. So all kinds of diseases go away, all kinds of disturbances are appeased, all kinds of obstacles are destroyed, and one attains the supreme peace. So this is the result of the chanting of the holy name, without offenses, of course. So this is the best of all sadhanas, to attain the stage of ante nārāyaṇa-smṛti, remember the Lord at the time of death. So it's called Harinam sadhana. There are different types of sadhanas. You can, some devotees during Kartik, they vow to fast from grains or from certain edibles. Some vow to read, some Bhagavad Gita chapters, this and that. So there are different sorts of sadhana. But there is one sadhana called Harinam sadhana. It's sadhana of chanting the holy names. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his famous Jaiva Dharma, he elaborates about this Harinam sadhana for those who are desirous to take it up during the Kartik and during any other month. So he says, one should constantly perform Harinam by counting the names properly on the Tulsi Mala, or in the absence of that, counting on the fingers. Of course, nowadays the clickers are very popular, but there is advantage of chanting on Tulsi Mala, and he will explain here. So one should always stay away from offenses. The fruit of Sri Harinam is Krishna Prema, and it's attained by chanting Shuddhanam. So what is the purpose of counting? So the purpose of keeping count is for the sadhaka to understand whether his practice of Sri Harinam is increasing or diminishing. So by counting, we know whether we are increasing, diminishing, or stagnating. So 16 is given to us as the minimum, but if we never ever increase, then something is better than nothing, but actually we are meant to increase. This is the purpose of counting. And he says, Tulsi Devi is very dear to Hari, so touching her while taking Harinam means that Harinam bestows more benefit. When one is practicing holy name or japa, one should understand that Sri Krishna Nam is non-different from his Swarup, his form. So chanting with understanding that name is non-different from Krishna. And then he also explains 3 types of sadhakas, 3 types of practitioners, which is also mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttama. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he told to Satyaraj Khan that anyone who takes the holy name is a Vaishnava. Anyone who chants sometimes is called a Vaishnava. One who constantly chants the holy name, he is called a Madhyama Vaishnava. And Uttama Vaishnava is one whose very sight makes holy name appears on one's mouth. So since we all chant holy name sometimes, we can be all called Vaishnavas. But we don't want to remain Kanishta Vaishnavas forever. At least we want to move to Madhyama stage. And according to this definition, Madhyama is one who chants the holy name constantly. So what is this constant chanting? Again, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains in Jaiva Dharma. So how is it possible to perform continuous Nama Sankirtana? Continuous Nama Kirtan means performing Kirtan of Sri Harinam at all times, while sitting, getting up, eating, or working, except while sleeping. Because when you sleep, you are not conscious and you cannot really control it, but at all other times, you are in control. In Nama Sadhana, in this special type of sadhana or practice, there is no propagation regarding time, place, situation, or cleanliness. That is, one may be in pure or impure condition. It doesn't matter. He is considered pure if he chants the holy name. So this constant chanting, this is not invention of Bhaktivinoda Thakur for some very elevated source. Actually, it's mentioned throughout the Srila Prabhupada's books. I checked in Veda base, 143 times the term continuous chanting is mentioned in Prabhupada's books. It appears 143 times. And just few shlokas away from this shloka, Shukadeva Goswami speaks to Maharaj Parikshit in the shloka 11. He says, Eta nirvidyamananam ichatam akuto bhayam yoginam nripa nirnitam harer nama anukirtanam. Harer nama anukirtanam. So, O King, constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord after the ways of the great authorities is a doubtless and fearless way of success for all, including those who are free from material desires, those who are desirous of material enjoyment, and also those who are self-satisfied by the dint of transcendental knowledge. So constant chanting is the way of success for everybody, regardless of their present material position. So in conclusion, we have a superior method to prepare for the final exam of remembering Krishna at the time of death. And that is called Hare Nama Anukirtanam, continuous chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And then, if we spend a life in this way, continuously chanting and remembering Krishna, then it's assured that at the time of death, we will also remember Krishna. We will not be left to the whim of our mind or a chance. I remember once one devotee told a story many years ago. He was drowning in Ganga, and then somehow he was saved. But then he told his experience later. So he said what he was thinking under the water when he was drowning. He said he remembered some ad for washing powder that he saw on a TV. This was the thoughts that were passing in his mind. So he didn't really remember Narayan. So he understood that he has more to work in order to be able to remember Krishna at the time of death. And I guess it applies to all of us. Ajamil is the famous example of a foolish family man who forgot everything, and he lived long, sinful life and had a baby even when he was 80. But because of his previous devotional service when he was young, he named his son Narayan, and this name of his son saved him at the time of death because he was always calling his son. So this is one way, but to name your son after Krishna and to be very attached to him, but it's not actually a recommended way. It happened to Narayan doesn't mean that it will happen to us. So once we remember Narayan, we go back to Narayan, either to Krishna Loka or Vaikuntha Loka, depending on our aspirations and level of perfection. So what we are going to do there will be no worries anymore. We'll be bored. There'll be no worries. Is it correct? Not really. The worry is going to continue there. If you remember, Vrijvasis, they are always in some worry and some anxiety. Krishna goes to the forest and gopis think how he can walk barefoot because there are so many thorns there and he might hurt himself. And then there are so many demons, Agasura, Bhagasura, Putana, Trinavarta, so many demons attacking Krishna, and they're always in anxiety. Kaliya, when Krishna was dancing on Kaliya, all Vrijvasis, they almost died, being in anxiety for Krishna's safety. But this is different sort of worry. It's not worry that is coming from material conditioned mind. It's worry coming from pure Krishna prema. It's worry that is enhancing one's love for Krishna. It's worry that is absorbing mind more and more in Krishna, not in the material world. So Mother Yashoda, she always worries whether Krishna eats enough. When he leaves to the forest, he goes after him and tries to give him shoes and embraces him 5 times. So Krishna goes back and forth, until she finally lets him go. And she worries not only about Krishna, she also has to worry about so many household affairs. She has to worry about the milk and curd and all these things that are related to Krishna. So now it's a Kartik month, so Damodar Leela is told. So if you remember well that Mother Yashoda, she was suckling Krishna, Krishna was drinking her milk, but then she noticed that nearby the milk was boiling. So she left Krishna and went to take care of the milk, which made Krishna angry. So she worried about the milk because that milk was for Krishna. So it was favorable for devotional service. All the milk and yogurt and everything that happens in the household of Mother Yashoda is meant for Krishna. So in that sense, it's even more attractive than Krishna himself. So it's a devotional service to worry about these things. So Krishna, he became very angry when he was left, and he started creating mischief. He broke the pot of yogurt, stole ghee, ate it, gave it to the monkeys. But now Mother Yashoda was coming back and Krishna had to worry. So he had to run fast. But Mother Yashoda is faster, so she caught him. So she came face to face with him, and all his hands were covered with the ghee, so he tried to cover it up by putting dust to cover the ghee on his limbs. And then with his eyes he was looking left and right, looking for a way to escape. And then eventually, when that didn't work, he started weeping to remove his mother's anger. And he made his body tremble in fear, which was sort of pretense, but he was also genuinely afraid under the influence of Yoga Maya. So Mother Yashoda said, seeing Krishna in this condition, if you want to steal in this house, then look at the stick in my hand. So she had a stick. So she threatened with a stick. When her lotus-eyed son was overcome completely with the fear, on hearing this, she realized maybe it's too much, so she threw away the stick. And Krishna was saying, Mother, Mother, please, do not beat me. But she told him, but you are a thief. You are the king of all thieves. Your father's lineage, they're all thieves. Nanda Baba's family members, they're all thieves. So tell me, how did the yogurt pot break? And Krishna said, well, it was the Supreme Lord's stick. Well, he was actually right. He's the Supreme Lord and his stick broke it. But he was saying, no, it's a Vishnu stick. And who gave the ghee to monkeys? He who created the monkeys, he gave the ghee to them. Meaning again him. So how did the yogurt pot break? Well, then he again started weeping. So when you ran quickly, the pot broke because of being struck with your anklets. What is my fault in this? You broke the pot. And inspired by the Lord, the monkeys, they entered the house to steal. When they pulled at the ghee was hanging, so they were pulling on the ghee. I caught it. So actually, I saved the ghee. So what is my fault? And then seeing you holding a stick, I ran away in fear. And you thought that I'm a thief, but actually I'm not a thief. I was just frightened because you tried to mercilessly beat me without any justice. And then Mother Yashoda said, "Oh, best of thieves, with your clever words. Though you're the son of King of Raj, you are fond of monkeys and you have a nature similar to those of monkeys." And Krishna replied, "If I'm a monkey, then I will go to the forest and stay there." And this made Mother Yashoda afraid. Oh, this child is very restless. Maybe he will really do that. So maybe I do something to prevent him. So I will bind him. O thief who bewilders everyone with your restless eyes, do not think of avoiding me. After binding you up, I will go to the house quickly. And then the lila goes on and on, as we know. So the warring will be there in the spiritual world, but it will be spiritual warring, and it will be blissful. Warring in the material world is miserable. It just makes you depressed, pulls you down, and pulls away your mind from Krishna. But once we are completely absorbed in Krishna, once we are with the Krishna, everything that happens there will be sort of transcendental ecstasy. So we should work very hard in this lifetime to remember Krishna at the time of death. Then in next life we can worry for Krishna. So I think I'll stop here if you have any comments or questions. Yes, Mataji, there.
Thank you very much.
It's
Hello.
okay.
Hariwal. Thank you very much for your nice class. You mentioned about anxiety and how through japa sadhana that could be relieved. So I have a testimonial, not only that, but many of my friends who go to Harinam Sankirtan and they were full of anxiety. Personally myself, I have a habit of taking on too much challenges or services, and then I end up in anxiety, what comes first, which one shall I do first. But simply by going to Harinam, honestly, everything's fall in place. So that's my personal testimony. The Harinam Sankirtan, which is recommended by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. And I challenge anybody to come and check out your anxiety out there. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, this is the best medicine. Harinam Sankirtan, the group chanting is even more powerful than individual chanting, and it has a power to dispel all the clouds of the mind, all these dark crowds of anxiety, worry and depression, and lifts you up above the bodily and mental platforms. So we want to be on that platform all the time. So if we feel down, as Mataji says, we should just join some good, powerful Harinam Sankirtan. And then you'll find out that the next day also our japa will be much better. Once I remember, many years ago, I went for some summer camp, and every day there was a Nama Yagya there. I was still young devotee. There was a Nama Yagya for 3, 4, 5 hours. So I was sitting there and chanting blissfully without thinking much about anything else. And when I came back, some of my friends who saw me, they thought, "Wow, you're floating. What happened to you?" Then I told them, "Well, I just participated in this chanting, and of course it weared off after some days of not doing it. Gradually you come down to the to the normal level where you start worrying again. So somehow we want to come up there above these mental clouds, like the planes when they fly. Sometimes they're below the clouds, sometimes they're going through the clouds, and once you're above the clouds, it's only bright sunshine and unlimited horizon everywhere you look. So similarly, once we go above these mental clouds of our mind, there'll be no worries anymore. We will feel fearless. This is what Prabhupada said when they asked him, how does it feel to be fully Krishna conscious? And Prabhupada said, you feel no fear. No fear means because you're not living in your mind anymore, and you know that Krishna is there, and Krishna is there to protect you at every moment. You feel the presence of Krishna. So that state is available to all of us. Just we have to push through to go above this barrier of the mental clouds. But it's there. And sometimes during the blissful kirtans we might have this short experience. It's just to encourage us how to go further. So we have to make effort. We have to make effort on a regular basis. Otherwise we'll be always depressed and anxiety and worry, and it will be miserable life. So who wants to live a miserable life full of worry when we have the best practice, chanting the holy names? So why not to take advantage of it? Okay, I'll stop. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji, for nice class. I have two questions. You have given some reference, Canto 10, like fish, the foolish fish does not understand how the water level will decrease. Can you say me, please, the reference, Canto 10?
Yeah, this is 20th chapter. Just 1 second.
Ten, 20, 37.
Yeah, 10, 20, 37.
Thank you.
This is description of the rain season in Vrindavan. 37.
10, 20, 37.
Yes.
Thank you. The next question is that I have doubt with your first the story about the woman. She lost her husband and the child. So how does that story fit to this sva-dharma-pariniṣṭhayā and ante nārāyaṇa-smṛti?
This story was there to illustrate that we should not worry about small, insignificant, banal, trivial things, because these worries are making us forget the bigger picture, forget why we are here and what we are supposed to do and what we are supposed to worry about. We are supposed to worry about how we will remember Krishna at the time of death. So we are not supposed to worry about the broken milk pots and other sort of trifles and other insignificant things. So one who has suffered a lot in his life, like that lady in the story was, he cannot worry anymore about small, stupid things, because he went through so many things. So why he's going now to worry about what is he going to eat today for breakfast or for lunch? It's irrelevant for one who has experience. So if we have enough experience how dangerous this world is, how it's not a place for gentlemen, then we will not be worrying about small things. So this is how that story relates.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for a very wonderful class. Prabhuji, you quoted Bhaktivinoda Thakur about steadily increasing the quantity of our chanting. But my personal experience is that my struggle with regard to the quality of chanting continues. Even if I try to increase the quantity, I still have the struggle with the quality. Mind continues to wander. So is there something else that should be done apart from trying to increase the quantity of chanting?
Yeah, working on a quantity is one way, but of course, one should try to increase the quality also. But just saying, oh, I will just work on the quality and I'll forget about the quantities also doesn't work. For example, if somebody plays tennis and he says, oh, I will practice once a week for 1 hour. Can he really improve his performance with this practice? No, he has to increase the quantity of his practice, meaning that every day he has to practice for 2 hours. And then during this practice, he will also think how to increase the quality of his playing. So similarly, in order to increase the quality, we definitely need to increase the quantity, but then there are other things that will help us to increase the quality. Like you have to, take care that you're always in a sattva guna, that throughout the day you do sattvic activities, that you do not contaminate your mind with the lower gunas, tamas and rajas, that will pull you down, that will enable you to be attentive. So many things are there in the terms of lifestyle. We need to live a pure and sattvic lifestyle. And also we should not be putting the garbage in our mind. Nowadays, internet is full of garbage. So many mundane news are there and here. So if we are completely absorbed in these destructive talks, gramya katha, then it will be very difficult to improve the quality of chanting. So everything has to be, even diet has to be sattvic. Routine, daily routine also has to be regulated. You cannot be going to bed at 12 o'clock and then expect next day you will chant good rounds. Everything has to fit together. Is that okay?
Thank you, Prabhuji. I just have one more supplementary doubt. Krishna wants us to avoid thinking about triflings by meditating on the real problems of life, like janma-mṛti jara vyādi dukkha doshāna darshana. So should we focus on this, or should we focus on manmana bhava madbhakto, which is the recommendation for a devotee? Should there be a subliminal thinking of these real problems of life also, apart from trying to absorb our mind in thinking of Krishna?
Definitely we need to deal with the problems of the daily life. You cannot avoid them. But it will be much easier to deal with them if you remember Krishna at the same time. Meaning you chant Hare Krishna while walking, while sitting, while taking prasadam, or engaging Krishna Katha. Then you'll be more equipped to deal with the daily problems. So at the same time, especially if we are grihastas, we have to deal with these problems, but at the same time we have to remember Krishna. Then it will make our material life also easier and spiritualize it.